And I had known Jack through Scooter, and I used to say, "You out of your league," you know.
You hang with the big boys now.
Yeah, you out of your league.
We've all heard the whispers, the late-night theories, the grainy footage, the so-called sightings from Belize to Havana. But this isn't about what fans think happened to Shakur. This is about what Mike Tyson allegedly knows, and what he just let slip in a conversation that was never meant for our ears. Sources close to the former heavyweight champion claim that in recent weeks, Tyson casually mentioned to a trusted circle that Shakur isn't just alive. He's been in hiding for decades, staying one step ahead of the very people who once controlled his career. And if that's true, then every tearful interview, every posthumous album, every candlelit vigil was part of a lie so massive it rewrites hip-hop history. But here's the part that should send a chill down your spine. Tyson didn't sound like a man sharing a conspiracy. He sounded like a man confirming a fact.
I lost. I lost my freedom behind Tupac. I lost business. I lost house, the whole lot of shit.
Let's rewind to September 7th, 1996. The MGM Grand in Las Vegas is electric. Mike Tyson has just knocked out Bruce Seldon in the first round, and in the crowd, sitting ringside, is Shakur, his closest friend in the industry. The two are inseparable that night, laughing at the press conference, trading jokes backstage, even getting into a scuffle in the hotel lobby with Orlando Anderson, a known affiliate of the Southside Compton Crips. Hours later, Shakur is rushed to the hospital after a drive-by shooting, his body riddled with bullets. Officially, he passes 6 days later. But according to Tyson's private remarks, that's not what happened. Insiders say Tyson described a very different scene, one where Shakur survived, was smuggled out under the cover of chaos, and began a new life far from the reach of Diddy Combs and the industry machine. And if we follow that thread, it doesn't just unravel one of music's greatest mysteries. It exposes a cover-up that implicates some of the most powerful names in entertainment.
The man put a lot of out there himself. So whether it's true or it's a lie, he got to answer for that. And whatever his explanation is, we're going to see. But he said.
Now, let's talk about why this matters right now. In December 2025, just months after Tyson's alleged confession, Sean Diddy Combs is set to stand a trial on charges that have nothing to do with Shakur, or so we're told. But the timing is impossible to ignore. His legal team has spent years dismissing the 50 Cent documentary Sean Combs, The Reckoning, as a shameful hit piece. Yet that same documentary dropped a bombshell. Former Bad Boy Records insiders, including co-founder Kirk Burroughs, directly accused Diddy of orchestrating the East Coast-West Coast rivalry that led to the tragedies of both Shakur and Biggie. Burroughs didn't mince words. He claimed Diddy ushered Biggie to his end by pushing him to go to L.A. despite warnings of danger. And then there's the DEA report, uncovered by USA Today, where Dwayne "Keefe" D. Davis, the man charged with Shakur's shooting, allegedly told investigators that Diddy put a $1 million bounty on Shakur and Suge Knight. Davis even claimed he met with Diddy at Greenblatt's Deli in L.A., where the mogul reportedly said, "I have a couple of problems I need handled. Big CEO and Shakur." Diddy's team called it all lies. But if Shakur is alive, then who's really lying? Here's where things get even darker. The night Shakur was shot, he was with Suge Knight, his label boss, his protector, and a man who had every reason to fear Diddy's influence. Knight has spent years denying involvement in the shooting, but in a 2014 interview with TMZ, he dropped a cryptic line that's only gaining new meaning today. Why you think nobody been arrested if they said they the one that harmed Shakur? Because Shakur not gone.
He's saying that, Diddy, he put a hit out on you and Tupac, and that's the reason why Tupac got in Vegas. So, yeah, man. How you feel about that?
Well, first thing first. I mean, that conversation been out there. He put his truth out there. A lot of other people put their truth out there.
At the time, it sounded like another wild Suge theory. But if Tyson's private comments are true, it wasn't a theory at all. It was a confirmation, and it raises a terrifying question. If Shakur faked his own end to escape Diddy's reach, who else knew? Who helped him? And why has no one talked until now? Let's look at the timeline. September 1996. Shakur is shot in Las Vegas. September 13th, he's pronounced gone. But within days, rumors start swirling. No autopsy photos, no clear witnesses, no arrests for years. Then there's the Makaveli angle. Shakur's final album dropped 2 months after his supposed passing. The cover art, the name. It's all a nod to Niccolo Machiavelli, the strategist who famously wrote about faking one's demise to outmaneuver enemies. The album's liner notes even read, "Exit Shakur, enter Makaveli." Fans treated it as artistic symbolism. But what if it was literal? What if Shakur didn't just adopt a persona? He became it. And here's the part that'll make your skin crawl. When you rearrange the letters in Makaveli, you get "Am alive K, coincidence?" or a message left for those who knew where to look.
Humans are not just good and bad, black and white. They're compassionate at times. They're at times. A man can be and compassionate to women at the same time. I was. Look at the lunatic and look at Brenda's Got a Baby.
Now, let's connect this to the Quad Studios shooting, because that's where the bad boy betrayal really begins. November 30th, 1994. Shakur is ambushed in the lobby of Quad Studios in New York, shot 5 times, robbed of $40,000 in jewelry. He survives, but the attack destroys his trust in Diddy and Biggie. In a 1996 interview with Vibe, Shakur was asked point blank if he thought Diddy was involved. His response? Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I believe so. I do believe so. He claimed he had proof. Proof that never saw the light of day. Until now. Because if Shakur is alive, that proof might still exist. And if Diddy's trial in 2025 starts pulling threads from the 90s, we might finally see it.
Bring him around the record labels. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was, I want to say, I don't know, 90, 91 maybe. We was, we recorded some songs, probably about 4 or 5 songs on Jay-Z, and shopped them to several different record labels, and they all passed.
But let's not forget the Cuba connection. Michael Nice, Shakur's former bodyguard and a self-proclaimed Black Panthers affiliate, told TMZ in 2018 that he helped smuggle Shakur out of the country after the Las Vegas shooting. According to Nice, Shakur was flown to Barbados, then to Cuba, where his aunt, Assata Shakur, a former Black Liberation Army member wanted by the FBI, had been living in exile since the 80s. Nice claimed hospital staff were paid to switch Shakur's body with another, that Fidel Castro himself sanctioned the move, and that Shakur has been spotted in Old Havana multiple times since. Nice even said he had video evidence of Castro confirming the arrangement. Then, in December 2018, Nice was found unresponsive. Official reports called it natural causes. But in a story this twisted, nothing is ever just natural causes.
Well, all due respect to Puffy, you gotta realize one thing. He didn't start off like that. I'm quite sure somebody taught him that.
And then there's Suga Knight's role in all this. Knight was with Shakur the night of the shooting. He spent years insisting Shakur is alive, even telling TMZ in 2017 that Shakur is somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar on an island. At the time, it sounded like Sug being Suga. Erratic, attention-grabbing, impossible to pin down. But if Tyson is now saying the same thing in private, we have to ask, was Suge telling the truth all along? And if so, why? Was he protecting Shakur? Or was he part of the plan to get him out? Because here's what we know. Suge and Diddy were locked in a bloody turf war. Shakur was Suga's biggest asset. And if Diddy really did put a hit out, then Suga helping Shakur disappear wouldn't just be an act of loyalty, it'd be an act of survival. Now, let's talk about the album again, because this is where the puzzle pieces start fitting together in a way that's impossible to ignore. Released posthumously, or so we thought, the album is drenched in references to faking one's end, to reinvention, to escaping enemies. Shakur had been studying Machiavelli's The Art of War for years, even adopting the name Makaveli after his prison release in 1995. Machiavelli's most famous tactic? Making your enemies believe you're gone when you're actually regrouping. Shakur wasn't just a fan of the philosophy. According to those closest to him, he was applying it. And if that's true, then the album wasn't a farewell. It was a blueprint. But here's where the story takes another turn. Because if Shakur is alive, then the 1996 shooting wasn't just an attempt on his life. It was the final push that forced him into hiding.
He was scared. Yes, I agree. I do agree that he was probably terrified for his life. So if that is the case, it's also quite feasible that he put up money to get Pac.
And who had the most to gain from his disappearance? The same people who controlled the narrative, the labels, the executives, the men who turned the East Coast-West Coast rivalry into a cash cow. Diddy has always denied involvement in Shakur's shooting, calling the allegations beyond ridiculous. But let's look at the pattern. In 1994, Shakur is shot at Quad Studios, a place tied to Bad Boy Records. In 1996, he's shot again in Las Vegas, and Diddy's name surfaces in connection to the hit. In 1997, Biggie is harmed in LA, and Diddy is right there with him before the shooting. 3 tragedies, one common thread. And now, nearly 30 years later, Diddy is facing a trial that could expose more than just his recent legal troubles. It could force old secrets into the light. And that brings us back to Mike Tyson. Because Tyson wasn't just Shakur's friend, he was his brother in arms. When Shakur visited Tyson in prison in 1992, the inmates reportedly gave him a standing ovation. Tyson has called Shakur his hero, his confidant, the one person who understood the pressure of fame and the target on his back. So, when Tyson allegedly tells people Shakur is alive, it's not gossip. It's a man who was there, who saw the chaos, who knew the players, who might have even helped facilitate the escape. And if Tyson is talking, it's because he believes the time is right. Maybe because Diddy's legal troubles have weakened his grip on the narrative. Maybe because the 2023 arrest of Keefe D for Shakur's shooting has reopened old wounds. Or maybe because Shakur himself is ready to step out of the shadows. But here's what we haven't talked about yet. The night Shakur disappeared, there was another player in the game. One who's been quietly connected to all of this from the beginning. And his name isn't Diddy. It isn't Suge. It's someone who's been hiding in plain sight for decades, pulling strings, controlling access, making sure the truth never sees the light of day. And if we follow the money, the motives, the timelines, we start to see a pattern that doesn't just implicate Diddy. It implicates an entire system. A system that turned two of the greatest rappers of all time into casualties of a war they never really understood. A system that, if Shakur is alive, might finally be forced to answer for what it did. And that's when we realize, this isn't just about Shakur. It's about who gets to control the story, who gets to decide who lives, who disappears, who becomes a legend, and who becomes a cautionary tale. Because if Shakur faked his end to escape that system, then the question isn't just where is he now? It's who else knew, and what are they still hiding?
We'll take Justin Bieber. A grown man take Justin Bieber when he was young to a vacation, a romantic vacation, showing pictures on the...
But here's what they're not telling you about the night Shakur vanished. Because while the world was focused on the shooting, the hospital, the funeral that never really happened, there was another move being made behind the scenes. A move that involved private jets, political asylum, and a deal so dangerous that the people who made it are still silent to this day. And if we want to understand how Shakur could have pulled this off, we need to look at the one place no one's been allowed to look before. Not the streets of LA, not the studios of New York, but a small guarded compound on an island where American laws don't apply, and where, for the last 28 years, a man who was supposed to be gone has been waiting for the right moment to come back. And if the rumors are true, that moment might be closer than we think. Because the trial in 2025 isn't just about Diddy. It's about the last piece of a puzzle that started the night Shakur walked away. And when that trial begins, the real story, the one they never wanted us to hear, might finally be told. But not by the courts, not by the media, by the one person who's been silent all this time, the one person who knows exactly what happened. And if the sources are right, he's not just watching from the shadows anymore, he's ready to speak.
You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when you got, we are living in a war zone. It's not as easy as these people are making us think, that they just got some criminal black kids with guns. It is not like that. We live in hell. We live in the gutter. We got us stacked up 80 deep in one building. You know, by the time you get out your house, you strapped with the protection.
And that's where the Black Panthers come in. Because if we're talking about a shadow network capable of smuggling one of the most famous men in the world out of a Las Vegas hospital under the noses of law enforcement, we're not talking about some back alley operation. We're talking about a group with deep ties to Shakur's family, a history of evading the FBI, and a direct line to Fidel Castro himself. Michael Nice wasn't just a bodyguard, he was a Panther operative. And according to his final interviews before his sudden passing in 2018, he wasn't working alone. Nice claimed that the moment Shakur was wheeled into that hospital, a plan was already in motion. A plan that involved switching his body with another, securing a private jet to Barbados, and leveraging Castro's long-standing asylum offer to Assata Shakur, Shakur's own aunt, a woman who'd been living in Cuba since the 80s after escaping a U.S. prison. Castro didn't just grant her refuge. If Nice is to be believed, he granted Shakur the same protection. And here's the part that should make your blood run cold. Nice said he had audio of Castro confirming the arrangement. Then he passed. Coincidence? Or a loose end that needed tying? Now let's talk about the night of the shooting, because the more we examine it, the more the official story falls apart. Shakur was known for wearing a bulletproof vest in public, yet that night, he wasn't. 14 shots were fired, but only a fragment hit Suge Knight, who was right beside him. The shooter? Never identified. The autopsy photos? Allegedly faked. The coroner's report listed Shakur as 6 feet tall and 215 pounds, when in reality he was 5'10 and 168. And the man who cremated his body? Retired immediately afterward and vanished. These aren't oversights. They're the hallmarks of a rush job, a cover-up. And if we ask who had the most to gain from Shakur's disappearance, the answer isn't just Diddy. It's the entire system that turned him into a target. Because if Shakur was still alive, he wasn't just a rapper. He was a witness. And in a war between Bad Boy and Death Row, witnesses don't get to walk away. Unless, of course, they're helped by people who know how to make someone disappear.
Keefe D said he told Rat James that, look, it's big money in this. Only thing Puffy want to do is pay $1 million to have both of them. He told me that.
And that brings us back to the Barbados jet. Because if we're tracking Shakur's escape route, we can't ignore the logistics. A private plane doesn't just materialize. It's chartered, paid for, coordinated. Nice claimed the jet was waiting before Shakur even left the hospital. That means someone knew the shooting was coming. Someone with enough pull to arrange international passage on a moment's notice. Suge Knight had the motive. He'd already lost artists to Diddy's influence, and Shakur was his last true asset. Mike Tyson had the means. His connections in the boxing world stretched into private aviation, and his loyalty to Shakur was absolute. But there's a third name we haven't considered yet, a name that ties directly to the Panthers, to Castro, and to the kind of political asylum that doesn't leave paper trails. And if we're right, that name isn't just a helper. It's the key to understanding why Shakur's disappearance wasn't just an escape. It was a strategic retreat. But here's what we haven't asked yet. If Diddy really did put a $1 million bounty on Shakur's head, who tipped him off?
So let's talk about it, man. So you feel like it was bigger than Orlando shooting Pac. You feel like it's more to the story. You don't think it was that simple?
I feel like it's bigger
because Shakur wasn't just running from a shooting. He was running from a hit that had been greenlit at the highest levels, and the only way he could have known it was coming was if someone on the inside warned him. Now, let's think about who had access to Diddy's inner circle in 1996. Who knew about the Bad Boy Crips alliance? Who had ties to both the streets and the suites? The answer isn't a person, it's a role. And that role belongs to the one man who's been quietly connected to every major turn in this story. Eric Von Zip Martin, Diddy's so-called uncle and a known figure in the New York underworld. Von Zip was the bridge between Diddy and Keefe D, the man who allegedly pulled the trigger. He was the one who funneled the bounty money. And he was the one who passed under mysterious circumstances before he could ever testify. So let's ask the question no one else will. Did Von Zip warn Shakur? Or was he the one who made sure the hit looked real enough to fool the world? And that's where Makaveli comes back into play, because Shakur didn't just study the man, he became him. Shakur's final album was a manifesto, a blueprint for faking your own end and rewriting history from the shadows. And if we look at the timeline, it's all there. The Quad Studios shooting in '94, where Shakur first realized he was a target. The prison release in '95, where he adopted the Makaveli persona. The Las Vegas shooting in '96, where he staged his exit. And the album dropped 2 months later, where he left his signature. Exit Shakur, enter Makaveli. Not a farewell, a transformation. And if we're right, the man who's been living in Cuba all these years isn't Shakur. He's Makaveli, the strategist. The survivor, the one who turned his own tragedy into the ultimate power move.
I always say, Keisha, I'm not gonna live, past a certain time, or, I know I'm gonna get shot up. He knew that. That was, the one thing that he did know.
But here's the part that should keep you up at night. If Shakur is alive, then the question isn't just where is he? It's who's been keeping him there. Because Cuba isn't just an island, it's a fortress. And Fidel Castro didn't just offer asylum to Assata Shakur, he offered it to a network that includes former Panthers, exiled radicals, and people who know how to keep secrets buried. And if Shakur's been hiding in plain sight all these years, it's because someone powerful enough to silence governments, control narratives, and erase paper trails decided he was worth protecting. The question is, why? Was it loyalty, leverage, or something darker? Something that ties back to the very people who've spent decades insisting he's gone. And that's when we realize this story was never about Shakur. It was about who gets to decide when a legend lives or disappears. Because if he's alive, then every documentary, every trial, every tearful tribute has been a performance. And the real story, and the one they didn't want us to hear, is still being written. But not by the courts, not by the media, by the one person who's been silent all this time, the one person who knows exactly what happened. And if the sources are right, he's not just watching from the shadows anymore. He's ready to speak. So tell us, do you think Shakur's been hiding in Cuba all this time? Or is the truth even stranger than we've imagined? Drop your theories below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because when this story breaks wide open, you'll want to be the first to know. Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, in a world built on lies, the truth is the most dangerous weapon of all. We'll see you in the next one.